Hello again, friends out there. I just wanted to do a real personal post today. You're going to get to know me a little bit more. So Sunday, we always go to church on Sunday, but you don't know this about me yet, but my husband is Christian and goes to a Christian denomination church. And my two boys go with him generally, and sometimes my 11-year-old. And then I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so my 14-year-old and I, and sometimes our 11-year-old comes with me. And so we go different ways on Sundays. Anyways, this past Sunday was General Conference. That's what we call it. But it's where we have our church on television. So we get to stay home and watch it on television. There are 2 sessions on Saturday, 2 sessions on Sunday. And so we watch it, and all the leaders, the big leaders of our church, and our Living Day prophet, who's on the earth and receives revelation for us, he speaks, and a bunch of amazing men, and women. So they speak and give us all kinds of really great things to contemplate and think about. And anyway, it's just really uplifting, really good. So that was this weekend. So Sunday, because we were having General Conference, we started at 9 and went to 11. And then we have a break, and then it starts again at 1 o'clock and goes till 3. So we decided we would go to church with my husband, since we don't get to do that very much because we're usually at church. So we watched from 9 until 10:50 until we had to run out the door. And then we went with him to his service, and they were having what was called Missionary Sunday. So they were talking about missionary work throughout the world. And they had a really cool, this guy came and spoke, and his name was Stephen Richardson, I think, or Steve Richardson. Yeah, Steve Richardson. He signed my book. And he talked about growing up in the jungle. So his parents were a missionary when he was a baby, and so he was taken to the jungle when he was only a few months old to live. And they went, I can't remember the exact place, but he went and they lived among Sawi warriors. So they were cannibals and headhunters and warriors. And these were the kind of people he grew up around. And so he talked about some of the things that he experienced growing up, but also about his parents' experience when they first got there. And that's the part I wanted to share with you because it's just inspiring. And I'm really excited. I bought the book that he had, and I'm really excited to read it. So I want to give you guys an invitation to read it with me if you think it would be worth your while. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about their story. So his dad went to the jungle ahead of them, and with an interpreter, I believe, and but he ended up doing a lot of sign language, trying to communicate with these men. And so he got there. They built a small little cabin that was on stilts. I'm sure you've seen that before. But later on, they live in the trees. It's so crazy. He showed some pictures, and they live 40 feet up in the air. They build these huge cabins in the trees. So pretty cool. But they built this small cabin on stilts, and the dad tried to tell them as well as he could that he would be back in 10 days, and that he was bringing his wife and baby, and that he was hoping that they would move their tribes closer to them so that they could become friends and he could teach them. He really wanted to teach them about Jesus Christ. So when he wasn't sure, he left with not knowing whether they would be there, if they would be happy that he's coming back. Remember, they're cannibals, headhunters, and warriors that he's talking to. So he left and went and collected his wife and baby and all of their belongings, brought them in a canoe because the only way to get there was by boat through this river. So they came through the river, and they said just as they were rounding the final bend to get to where they had built their hut, his mother took a picture, and in this picture, he showed it. It was just all these silhouettes of men standing there with their warrior attire on, and all you could see in the air was their spears. So spears and heads is pretty much what you saw. And he said that his parents both were scared. They didn't know what they were coming into, what these people thought of them being there, if they were happy about it or not, if they were going to be welcoming or not. And so they decided as soon as they pulled in that the husband would lead. His name was Don, and he would lead them in getting out of the canoes, and he would take the baby with him. So 7 months old at this time, I think. So he took the baby and got out of the boat and walked up to these warriors with their spears and full warrior gear on. And so he approached them, and in their culture, there's nothing more peaceful than a man approaching you with no weapons and a child in their arms. So they all put their warrior gear down and welcomed them. And he said that they were all super happy that they were there and that they partied, basically had a celebration for 3 days and 3 nights and were all around their hut. And so they danced for 3 days and 3 nights all around their hut, that's a long time. Anyways, after that, he talked about they started becoming friends, trying to learn the language. His parents really studied, especially his dad, trying to learn the language. And so then he would have little meetings with some of the leaders and stuff, trying to become friends with them, but also teaching them about the teachings of the Bible. And he told them the story of Jesus, and Judas was in the story, obviously, and how Judas had betrayed Jesus. And they were like, tell us more about Judas. We really like this Judas. And he was a little bit shocked, like, Judas isn't a good guy in this story. And they said, but Judas is like us because we do the same thing. Like, we would betray a friend. And they talked about how before they had welcomed someone from another tribe, because all these tribes just fight amongst themselves. They can never have peace. And they fight amongst themselves all the time over little things. And how they had this... so they had this guy that they took in from another tribe as a friend and fattened him up, basically, I guess. Invited him in, fed him food. He stayed in their village. He came back and forth, and he told them that he was basically an ambassador. And so once he was comfortable there, at one of the meals, they had some keyword or something that they said. And once that keyword was said, they all pulled out their spears and weapons and killed him. And yeah, so they were very excited to hear about Judas because they could relate to him. And so this man, Don Richardson, as he was listening to this, said he was thinking, how am I ever going to teach these guys about Jesus? Like, this is the kind of people that I'm dealing with, like, it's just insane, crazy. And so he was struggling with that and trying to learn the language still and stuff. And they had an open area in front of their hut, and they said every day pretty much, because the numbers kept growing, people kept coming, different tribesmen and all kinds of stuff. So they were living amongst each other, but fighting still all the time. And he said the only open area for them to fight was right in front of their hut. So daily, almost, they would have these fights between tribes, and they would kill each other, hurt each other, and it was not an unfamiliar sight. So he said one day he heard it happening again, and he ran out there, and he said he was just frustrated, and he told them, with the help of the interpreter, that if they couldn't get along and if they couldn't at least try to set aside their differences, that he was going to take his family and leave, because they weren't making any difference there. They weren't willing to listen to them. They weren't hearing their message of peace and Jesus Christ and stuff. So they were going to leave. And these warriors were like, don't leave. We don't want you to leave. They were excited because of all the things they were bringing to them. Were seeing things that they had never seen before, like matches. They could start a fire with a little stick, and tools that were made out of metal. They had never seen that before. Like, the things they had to cut with were rocks that they couldn't even get where they lived. They had to go up into the mountains to get that. So they were excited that they were there, and they didn't want them to leave. So he said the next day or a couple days later, he heard a woman screaming outside. And he thought, oh no, here we go again, more war or whatever. And he went outside to see this scene. And it was the father of the baby was taking the baby, a newborn baby, to give to the other tribe. Like giving it to them to keep. And he went and asked why they were doing this and will they hurt the baby? And they said, no, this is a peace child, which means as long as that baby is alive, so there will be peace between the two tribes, that it's the biggest offering you can give of peace. And that every warrior in the tribe that accepted the peace child put their hands on this baby and swore a pledge to take care of this baby as well as they could and protect him and treat him really well, and that this child would be treated really well and taken really well care of, because as long as that child was alive, there would be peace between the two tribes. But as soon as something happened to that child or that man, once they grew up or whatever, there would not be peace any longer between the two tribes. So it was really important to them to keep these babies or these children healthy and well taken care of. And so he finally, it dawned on him and he was like, okay, so this family has just given up their only son in order to bring peace between these two tribes. This is a peace child. And he said, so I was able to figure out a way that I could tell these people about Jesus Christ. And it was to relay the story of Jesus, but as Jesus being the peace child, that God gave his only son in order to bring peace and love and restoration to this earth and to us as people. And so he said once he explained that story again to them and told them that Jesus was a peace child and Judas had betrayed him, they were really angry at Judas and they totally understood. And they said, why didn't you tell us that in the first place? And so once he understood their culture, he could tell them about Jesus Christ through their own culture and things that they understood. So anyway, his father has written a book and it's called Peace Child. And I'm just about to start to read it. So I would invite any of you that would like to read it with me. It's on Amazon and you can order it probably even like through Abe Books or some of those other places that might have used ones. So look for it there. But I would love to hear your comments on it. The other thing is they have a video that they made that was just recent. And that, I'll put the link in the comments because that is really incredible. He showed a clip of that too. And this was the 50-year anniversary. So it was his 50th birthday. They decided to go back there and they didn't know, they had been gone for 25 years or more, and they didn't know if anybody would even be there to accept them or that they would know that they're coming or that they would even know anybody there anymore. And so he showed a clip of it and it was of them returning and just a ton of people there waiting and cheering and so excited to see them. So, and he went back with his father and his two brothers. So very, very cool. So I'll put that in the comments, but think about it. Read The Peace Child with me and see what you think about it. I love reading books. This is also an audiobook, which I also got, so I might be listening to it more than reading it, which I love to do because I'm in the car a lot. So I tend to read a lot more when I can listen to it. But it's on Audible. That's where I got mine. But you can also, probably get it anywhere else, even the library. So anyway, I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it. Amazing story, totally inspiring. And I just wanted to share with you guys today. Hope you have a great day. Bye.